get in contact with a drug group to become a group of assassins. Let me tell you, on the face of that, that is beyond any operational knowledge that any intelligence officer would do. You just don't trust someone with that lack of focus and training to do something that would be that key and critical to an assassination plot. It's just not done. So
wouldn't you normally go after well-performing former military people or doctors or engineers or people that have shown that they're focused and professional?
There's a term, and you've used it before, called vetting. One of the key elements of any successful intelligence operation, you can ask Bob Baer this. Bob would probably tell you the same thing. The key to a successful intelligence operation is vetting of an asset, to make sure that you test them adequately to make sure that they will do your bidding when the time comes. And frankly, this guy was, from as far as I could tell, I wouldn't have used him to do basically a dead drop for me, because I think he's not even that reliable. And the second thing that you need to look at, and I hope your audience looks at very hard, is the wire transfers. My goodness, since the beginning of the current war, everybody's been looking at high-dollar transfers of money. So, again, an intelligence organization with the professional background of the IRGC or the Quds Force, I think they watch us very closely. So for them to make an amateur mistake tells me one of two things. First, there was a radical element within the Quds Force who was just doing this on their own and really kind of want to discredit the other side. And let's not forget that within the Iranian government, there is a huge conflict going on between Ahmadinejad and the other folks who want to do different things. So there is truly a conflict there. So this could well be good news by the fact that there's a visible break within the government, and someone there did this trying to prove a point. But on the other hand, this could be, again, a provocation by someone here who basically wanted this to be caught. And again, I've talked to a number of intelligence professionals, many of which, Alex, are and again, like you've already said, these guys and gals are not pro-Iranian, but they've told me, based on their experience, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy, that based on their experience, this basic format does not add up to any known format for a successful intelligence operation. If you're really
but it does fit the format that we've seen hundreds of times the last few years of the FBI setting up mentally ill patsies, yes, or just purely setting people up. And as you mentioned, the affidavit, it's in the news today with those that have seen the affidavit that it was the informant running the whole thing, and this was just some idiot trying to be part of a drug deal and make some money, and that it isn't even designed to hold up later. It's just a pretext to launch a war. So I want to, Colonel Schaefer, I want to go back here specifically because this is what everybody really wants to understand. Tell us as much as you can about your high-level FBI Justice Department source with the security clearance. You said you've met with them again just to make sure what they told you was correct. You said in the last segment that yes, and more. What are they telling you about this not being in their files, not being in their computer system?
Well, there's three things notable. First, obviously, if you're on the inside, this is kind of common sense. The first thing you're going to do if you're a security expert with an interest or responsibility in terrorism, you're going to look at this to see if it means something to you directly. So a lot of these guys will sit down and go through, because they have the clearance, they'll start doing research within the classified realm to find out what's going on. Well, the first point, Alex, was when these friends of mine decided to go check it out, is like, there's nothing there. And that's highly suspect, because normally the government, especially inside, wants to brag about what it's done well. And, oh, by the way, if there's a threat that's derivative of this that you need to be concerned about, they put it out there. So, again, in this case, there's nothing really out there from what they're telling me. Now, again, I don't have direct access. I'm going with what they've told me. So that.
And by the way, this thing goes back months and months and months. So it's also an older case.
Right. And let's remember that all this really started transpiring in September, but really wasn't revealed until, a couple of days ago. So that's the first indication that something is not quite right. Secondly, relating to the fact that this is a southwest border thing, they feel that this may be distracting directly from other things going on. Now, their view of it is that this is actually something trying to draw attention to the Zetas, because there's a competing drug group in the southwest border that the Mexican government is now going after, and basically they're telling me that they believe that the Zetas were pointed out specifically in this because there is a desire to kind of prop them up and draw more attention to them. So they believe, my inside guys think, that this may be a plot plot to try to draw attention to this one drug group over one of the competing drug groups. And I have to get more details on that because I'm not an expert in that area right now.
Well, let me give you details, sir. The only reason I'm a quote expert is we've been following it. I'm down here in Texas, and Sully Castile was a DEA agent they set up for guns and actually put in jail over this. 6 years ago, he told me all this was starting up with competing drug cartels, some backed by the U.S. government, others by other factions. And since then, it's come out, El Paso Times, Chicago Tribune, in these court cases, Sinaloa is allowed to ship in unlimited cocaine. This is confirmed. The feds have now declared national security in Chicago and have said basically it's true. And then they're given the thousands of guns that are directly given to them by ATF. And then this is confirmed going back at least since Obama got in, but some of it goes back further. And so what you just said there with Zetas and Sinaloa, there's a lot of heat on Sinaloa right now. And there has been this move to try to focus it over onto Zetas, but also notice it lets the Attorney General talk about fighting Mexican cartels and just muddies the water with people that are barely paying attention to, oh, that's the Attorney General fighting the Mexican cartels with the Iranians, who are involved, instead of what is the Justice Department doing shipping guns to Sinaloa?
Right, and that is exactly the point they brought up to me, saying that they think that that's the real issue behind what's going on. And the third point goes back to an extension of the point we just talked about. We need to be looking at what's going on in that area because, frankly, if the Iranians, even if this was a real plot, the fact that they would try to direct someone through the southwest border should indicate that there may be a weakness there that we need to look at. So basically, the 3 points are, first off, there's just not sufficient information in the classified system that would go with a high-profile case of this nature, both from the derivative, hey, look out for this because something may happen on your watch, and by the fact that there's no information available kind of filling in the rest of the details for those who have the clearance. Secondly, they believe this links directly to the Zeta issue, trying to draw more attention to the Zetas over this competing group. And third, they believe that the fact that this is all transpiring on the border should give everybody pause and really make everybody look down there. And one of the things that they didn't tell me this, but it's a saying that I've always lived by. One time, Senator Trent Lott told me in the Fox Green Room, he said, Tony, no matter what they're talking about publicly, the real issue is something else. So frankly, Alex, I think what we need to be looking at is what is the other issue here? Is it a pretext for war, or is it a kind of the bait and switch getting us to look at a different direction regarding the southwest border issue? But any way you look at it, any way you cut it, the real issue is somewhere else out there, and this is why I encourage you and your listeners to actually encourage, the government owes us more explanation on what's actually going on, because at this point in time, nothing seems to add up.
Well, you're right, and you just raised a point that I thought about privately but hadn't raised, and it may have gone over some people's heads who were just driving down the road, not really listening clearly or closely. But a lot of times when the establishment knows there's about to be an attack and they want it to happen for political purposes, or they don't think they can stop it, whatever the case is, they will focus attention onto a patsy and a region so that when the attack comes, they say, see, we tried to stop it. And I think that's what you were basically starting to allude to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is, again, a concern from the folks on the inside. It's like if they are saying this, if there's, and this looks so hokey, there may be a reason why they're getting people distracted to do something here. So now they don't know of any other attacks or obviously anything else. We're just focusing on a specific issue. But yeah, Alex, the problem is this. There's so many holes in the current story. Everybody is so distracted on trying to figure out what is really going on. There may be other things that aren't being looked at, which we should look at. And this is a pattern. This is where we've done things like this before, and it's very important for your listeners to understand that they need to demand accountability. And frankly, I'd like to believe the intelligence officers you've talked to, that one of the reasons I'm speaking out is that our government owes us a fair and true accounting of what they're doing to defend us. And more importantly, the evidence they bring forward should be ironclad to the truth, not some fiction they draw up or put together based on the fact that they've taken people of diminished capacity and tried to prop them up as a threat.
Well, Colonel, that's my next point for you, and this is the heart of it then. Look, and I know you like to give people general information, but just boiling it down here. You've got the subpoena that they knew was going to come out the next day. And so the day before the subpoenas on lying about Fast and Furious, which in the court documents is cocaine allowed to be brought in, Justice Department involved, 8 federal agencies, not just ATF, but DEA, FBI, Border Patrol, Coast Guard. I mean, this is incredible. And then shipping guns, which is now confirmed, not just letting guns be sold, the ATF shipping them to Sinaloa. I mean, this could have brought them down. So right as these subpoenas go out, this whole smoke screen comes out. I mean, is that what you're getting at?
Yes, it is. I think that's where we need to be concerned about the timing of this. And again, let's just look at this in the common sense perspective. None of us have any background. Why on earth, if this was that key an issue, would you wait almost 2 weeks before talking about it to the American people if this is really that credible a threat and you've got the guy? Secondly, the timing could, I don't believe, after being in this town for the past 25 years, I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe that somehow, out of the goodness of the DOJ's heart, that Eric Holder then said, we need to get the word out because it's the right thing to do. I do believe that the information coming out the day before the additional subpoenas were coming over from Congressman Issa's staff was an indicator that they don't want to have people talking about this. And frankly, this was such a provocative concept. And again, let's look at the Hollywood value of this, Alex.
It was meant to be sexy. It was meant to get people to buy into it.
Yes. You're talking about all the sex. You're talking about multiple countries, international intrigue, characters that came out of the, out of central casting, all coming together for something that was like throwing red meat to lions. And I think that's what they were hoping for here. And I think they overplayed their hand, which is probably good for all of us.
All right, Colonel, the book is Operation Dark Heart, best-selling, available at Amazon, everywhere else. We really appreciate your time. In the 2 minutes we've got left, this is very encouraging, unless I heard you wrong earlier. You're saying from your Pentagon sources, they're saying we just don't have the capability right now to back up Israel in an attack. But Israel sounds like they are going in. We saw Panetta 11 days ago say Israel's more isolated than ever. What is in 2 minutes, the analysis from your perspective on where we're going with Iran, where Israel's going?
Let me say this very quickly. First off, the Iranians do pose a threat. They have a theocracy which hates us and everything we're doing, and they are developing nuclear weapons. I spent last week working with National Defense University on an exercise regarding electromagnetic pulse weapons, which we believe the Iranians are developing, which could do huge damage to us, but I don't believe they would draw attention to themselves at a time of trying to develop a secret weapon. I just don't think that's in the cards. And frankly, this administration has been more forgiving to them than any other, so I don't think they'd want to prompt anything going against that. With that said, I think we are overstretched. People are telling me that while there may be desire, there's no capability to go in and do the level of strikes necessary to take these things out. And lastly, we've got to figure out a way to help promote the citizens of Iran and their desire to be free without jeopardizing our own security. So that's the tight wire we have to...
But you're saying the word from all your inside sources is that they're not going to go into Iran. What's the word on Israel then?
That I'm trying to find out. I got to be honest with you. I have no information on that right now. All I know for sure right now is that there was a call for capability, and basically the answer came back. Everything from Iraq has either been re-put into Afghanistan or is basically so broken you can't use it. So that is the way I'm hearing.
What about troop buildup? What about troop buildups in Kuwait and other areas?
Alex, the troops are always going to be there in some form. The question is, obviously becomes, do they do a surge or not? And frankly, I think that a surge would be picked up on pretty quick if they started doing that. At this point, I have no indication from my guys that they're going to be able to do that. So.
Okay, well, that's certainly good news then, I mean, from your camp and from your sources, that there have been calls for this. We know King's calling for it. He wants troops standing by, the congressman, but you're saying that isn't the direction that this is going in right now?
Not right now. It could change.
All right, Colonel Anthony Shaffer, thank you for spending time with us. Amazing information. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Gerald Celente, and we've got a big report that's up on the Drudge Report right now.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.